individualized care during quarantine because the tanks are smaller, but it's also to make sure we don't have any of those parasite infestations in our large exhibits, because if that happens, it's much more difficult to treat, a 300,000 gallon exhibit than it is to treat, 5,000 gallons in a backup area.
An antibiotic is mixed and added to all of the tanks. It is paramount to easing the stress on fish when their immune systems are down.
3 minutes. Tell me, starting now.
Saltwater fish are often placed in what is commonly called a freshwater dip.
He's fairly stressed.
The reason you put them in fresh water is that it's a way to treat for the external parasites without introducing drugs, and that for a very short amount of time makes the fish uncomfortable, but in the long term makes their new home much cleaner. It's hard on the fish, but it's not within the bounds of what they can't deal with for 3 minutes. The parasites, on the other hand, can't deal with it even for that short amount of time. And hopefully most of them will die, we'll decrease the parasite load, and then after that 3-minute dip, we introduce them directly into the tank. There's no drug residue. There's no chemicals that are going to harm maybe some of the other animals that are in that particular tank.
Not all fish are flown into Newport. Some are hauled in the back of a semi-truck.
Our first order was 700 jacks.
Get the little guys. Get the little guys first.
It was basically like a big relay race is the best way I can describe it. The first thing that we did was get hoses out and take the water from the tank that they were going into the fish tanks in there, and we did an acclimation right in the truck.
These fish are jacks, and they have very delicate skin. And whenever you move fish of any kind, but particularly with these kind of animals, it's important that you touch them as little as possible because you want to be very delicate. Ideally, you want to move a fish in its own little pocket of water.
And then we would put them into the tubs and run them back to the tank. And then we had a couple people there that were actually counting. 1 per bow jack. We had 5 different species of animals, and they were tallying, which number of what species were going into which exhibit or which tank.
Not all the inhabitants are delivered to the Newport Aquarium. Some are collected from other aquariums, and some, like the majestic king penguins, were hand-picked and escorted from Japan. Most people would not associate penguins with an aquarium, but these birds are definitely aquatic. They love to swim, and many would argue that penguins seem to fly through the water. King penguins are the second largest species of penguins in the world, and by far the most colorful. With distinct personalities, they're quite captivating to watch.
Certain personalities shine more than others, so it's like a little kindergarten group. You always know that they're going to come in and you're going to have an exciting day. It just depends on who's going to make it that exciting.
All 16 were handpicked by Crystal. To collect her flock, she will travel halfway around the world to Japan.
No, I think you need to wait your turn.
But before her journey can begin, there's a lot of work to be done. She is required to set up a USDA-approved quarantine area.
Anytime an animal is imported from the United States Department of Agriculture, they have been empowered by the federal government to create protocols to make sure that when animals are brought in from outside the U.S., that they don't introduce an exotic disease with them.
Until now, there were only 2 sites in the country that were government approved to quarantine penguins. Since the Newport Aquarium is a new facility, Crystal and the USDA worked closely to construct a safe isolation site so the penguins could be transported from Japan directly to Kentucky. In Shirahama, Japan, more than 150 king penguins reside at Adventure World. Crystal's goal is to select 8 males and 8 females.
We wanted to make sure they had good feathers. As you can see, their feathers look really good. That's a very important thing for birds. It keeps them insulated and keeps them healthy when they're in the water. We needed to have their feet look really good. If anything happens to their feet, it can kill a bird. So you want to have really good, healthy feet. They weren't too interested in me. They much rather their Japanese feeder than myself because they didn't know who I was. And then finally, towards the end of the week, they started coming over to actually feed from me, which was a good thing because they had to do it anyways here. So I did spend quite a bit of time with them before we came over.
Crystal also